when you bring this argument to a lot of people, what I've heard is that there have been talks that US has actually been beseeching Israel not to conduct ground invasion unless the hostage situation is resolved. And in fact, they were the ones who convinced Israel to let aid get through, at least some aid get through to Gaza. And also, just I want to add another layer of question to this before you answer that, is that we keep talking about how European states and how US has not really been seeing the Palestinian point of view, have not really been advocating for them. But how about the Muslim bloc? How about them? I haven't seen any advocacy efforts from any of the Muslim states either, or any efforts to bring this point to the forefront.
I fully agree with you. That is really a very big disappointment. And I think the reasons are pretty obvious, that they are all trying to stay in the good books of the US. If they make too many waves, they will be punished. It's as simple as that. But it is unconscionable. The only countries that took a very active part in getting the trickle of humanitarian aid were Jordan, Egypt,
yeah,
and Qatar, maybe one more.
Mm-hmm.
But the powers like Saudi Arabia, who have the resources and have some leverage with the White House, they are not really doing their job. Most of the Emirates are not doing their job. Qatar is the only exception. They are actively participating. The EU sent some food, and
yes.
but you're right. In politics, they are totally irrelevant. And Egypt refused to open. Now, Egypt was being pressured by the US, by Europe, to open the border.
Correct.
Okay. Now, what would that mean? That would mean the second Nakba, 1 million refugees in 1 week and going into Egypt. So Sisi took a stand. I don't like him, the way he came into power and killed the democratically elected leader, Mohammed Morsi. So I don't like him at all. But his position is, at this point, good. He's taking a stand, standing up to Israel, standing up to the pressure by the US to open the border. The plan that Israel has is to push these 1 million or more, the 2.3 million people in Gaza, push them out of Gaza into Sinai, Egyptian Sinai, the desert.
Right.
And so I would say that at least Egypt has taken some stand, and Jordan is helping in the humanitarian aid, but Jordan has no really political power. So I agree with you that the Muslim bloc has played a very deplorably negative role in this whole struggle. And
that's what I wanted to highlight, that we keep blaming US, we keep blaming European countries, but nobody ever talks about how Muslims are not doing anything. They're not even standing up behind and advocating for right of self-determination for Palestinians, which is a basic right for them.
I mean, I would like to slightly disagree about the emphasis. See, the Muslim countries have no power. The US has the power.
True.
To make changes. They can only plead, and they have been pleading for a long time. The Arab League made an offer. It was called Arab Peace Plan. Bush was the president. He said he liked the plan. It should be implemented. And Israel said no. What was the plan? It was recognition of Israel as its secure borders.
Mm-hmm.
It was created, even 1967 border. That would leave only 22% of historic Palestine for Palestine. Remember that now. This is 78% in Israel's occupation and 22%. Even that was rejected by Israel. That was the Arab League plan. So Arabs have done all this. Saudi Arabia had its own plan, was a wonderful plan. But the point is, the US, to me, US is the number one impediment to peace between the two countries. There's a question that always comes up when I'm teaching the subject. This is the most recurrent question students ask me. Why does the US do it? What is the motive behind it? Palestinians have a right. It was their state. They were about 93% when the Jewish agencies started to come in. Then when the state of Israel was created, they were given 53%, which is all more than expected. So why does the US have this policy? So my answer, very straightforward answer, which is also for your viewers, because I'm sure everyone is puzzled. My straightforward answer, Amina, is that the US wants to have the control of the Middle East for hegemonic reasons. All superpowers do it. US is not an exception. And US is using Israel as a base. Israel is primarily, at this point, it is a European state, a European bridgehead into the Arab world, into the heart of the Arab world. So I think the US has the power to do it. One interesting point that I think we should know is the Russian Federation's representative at the UN about a week ago.
Yes.
He said, we are having this situation in Gaza. I agree with him 100%. This delegate from Russia. He said, we are watching in Gaza what is the result of, number one, Israel's violation of UN Security Council and General Assembly resolutions, violation of those. And the second reason is that the US has monopolized the peace process and it continues to use vetoes. It has used the veto for about 45 times on Israel to protect Israel's violations of international law. What kind of country is this in which I'm living? It is a civilized country. It is a UN Security Council resolutions that are being violated. On the one hand, my government says we are against settlements, the Jewish settlements in the occupied land. Nobody has ever said that we are in favor of that. But when it comes to enforcing that resolution, we veto it. What kind of hypocrites we are. I don't really think that we have sane foreign policy. Very, very plainly, our policy that we have, especially about Israel, is insane, suicidal. There was military leaders and civilian leaders who are sensible have made this statement. When he was chair of Joint Chiefs of Staff, David Petraeus, he later was also director of CIA. Mm-hmm. David Petraeus said, I'm quoting his words, Israel's intransigence endangers American lives at home and abroad. Now, this is a military top leader who is saying that. Again, I'll repeat it because this needs to be heard. And I tell it to my American friends that we are very blind. We invite problems instead of solving them. And these words again, David Petraeus saying, Israel's intransigence endangers American lives at home and abroad. Now, he made the statement in the context of the 9/11 attack. Of course, that was a terrorist attack. No justification for that, even if there were grievances and all that in the background, but no justification. But we have to protect ourselves. What Petraeus is saying is we should not have policies that make the people so mad
that you make your own population vulnerable.
That, and then Carter, he was president. He wrote a book, Palestine, Peace, Not Apartheid. His words are also very similar to Petraeus's. He says peace will come to Israel, Palestine, only when Israel will honor international law. And he said, we Americans are squandering our goodwill, global goodwill, and inviting terrorism, global terrorism. Now, if you look up the word for word, these are the words of Jimmy Carter. So I've given you the words of a top leader, the military. There are American people who are sensible. Why do we bring into power people who have such policies that make no sense? That's my question to everyone here that I deal with. So the reason, again, finishing the answer, the reason I digressed a little bit, I said that you're right. The Muslim countries have played a very dismal role, and we blame the US. Let me say, re-emphasize, I will blame the US first. I'll blame the US second, blame the US third, and then I will go to anyone else to blame for the reasons I gave you. The US can stop this in 1 minute. $3 billion a year given to Israel and telling the world two-state solution is our policy. And we are such hypocrites at the government level. I love the Jewish Voice for Peace. Wonderful organization. I'm a member. They open it. And there are a lot of Jewish groups in this country who are doing a great job, much better than any Muslim country has done, in my view. So I think it is important to make this point, and since we're discussing that, many people confuse criticism of Israel as if it were an anti-Semitic act. I think this is very important. Many of my friends and colleagues have been victimized because they criticized Israel's policies and they were called anti-Semitic. The most famous examples are Norman Finkelstein. Stephen Silaita, he was a professor, University of Illinois, offered him a job. And when he tweeted that his family and friends in Gaza were being very brutally attacked, he tweeted that, and the University of Illinois withdrew the offer. Okay. Now, what I'm saying, the point that I think we all have to know is we have to bring in people who can represent America's best and not prove Bernard Shaw that we are a country that has gone from barbarism to decadence without once passing through civilization.